And we started looking at multiplication. So we're going to finish up our multiplication notes. And one of the main things I said, hey, don't worry about multiplying the numbers together. You're going to have you have a giant multiplication chart in the back of your notes. There's another one in the back of your assignment, so you can always look up what the multiplication is. What I really want you to do is focus on the signs. And the thing you need to memorize was, hey, if the signs were different, you ended up with a negative number. If the signs were the same, you end up with a positive number. And that technique works really, really well if you have only two numbers that you're multiplying. But what happens when you have three numbers you're multiplying? And we talked a little bit about that. And you go, we talked about it, where did it go here? Right? And you said, hey, you just multiply from the left to right, you do two at a time, you figure out the sign. You multiply the third one, you figure out the sign according to that rule. Well, what I want you to really realize is, don't worry about the signs, right? You should be able to look at a question, tell me if it's positive or negative, just by counting the negatives. So the way it works, I think we may have talked about it a little bit, is let's talk about trickiness. Maybe underneath here, right here, we'll do where the signs are. Okay. Let's write this down right here. We'll leave room for a couple of examples here. We'll try to fit it in here. Okay. All right. So, two negatives make a pair. That pair makes a positive. So when you have a string of multiplication, you want to grab out your notes? Your day two, the transformer book, right? What we want to do is we want to pair up the negative signs. So I can go this negative can pair with this negative. That makes a positive number. And you can go this negative pairs with this negative, and that makes a positive number. So I know this is going to be a positive number. Because all the negatives can pair up. So if you have an even amount of negatives in your question, all those negatives can pair up and make a positive answer. But if you have an odd number of negatives, so let's go like this. We go -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. Oops. Let's take off the last one. I did one too many. Here, if we pair up the negatives, we go, okay, this negative with this negative, this negative with this negative, you'll have an extra negative left over. So the answer is going to be negative. So by looking at a question, by counting how many negatives there are, you can tell if something's going to be positive or negative. Right? And that's the skill I hope my grade 9 students have and my grade 10 students have when I was teaching grade 10. In grade 8, you can do what we did last day, just multiply the numbers together and figure it out. But this is the faster way. This is the way I want you guys to think. Okay, so now, other trickiness before we move on to the back page is multiplying can be shown in lots of different ways. One was the traditional way, +5 times -3, like this. Or you could have two brackets touching each other. Or we could put a dot in between. All those mean multiply. Time symbol, a dot, or two brackets touching each other. All means two times. And then now we can do combinations of these. You can go 5 touching a bracket. That means times. Or 5 dot a bracket. That means times. So any combination of this just means times. The chances are, if you don't know what's happening between two numbers, it's going to be adding or subtracting. it won't be adding, subtracting, so you'll be multiplying. Right? So another thing, so we get to create here, and x's won't be the only thing that's shown. You'll have different ways. Okay, so let's go into the back side of this page here. All right? So now, this is sort of like your multiplication chart. The very last column, if you made it that far on the warm-ups we do, you have to figure out the missing number. Now, the missing number here, right? 4 times something is 20. Harveen? Excellent. Right? So now I'm going to slow it down. We need a 5 here, because 4 times 5 is 20. And we want the answer to be positive, so we need it to be negative. Right? These two negatives make a positive. All right. So think about the number and think about the sign. So looking at here, is this answer going to be positive or negative? Positive. Positive. Then, okay, you've dealt with the signs. Now figure out the number. 5 times 6. Right? What is that? 30. Thank you, Peyton. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Okay. The sign. We have a negative times something equals a negative number. Is the missing number negative or positive? Positive, right? Excellent. Because a negative times a positive. So I'll put a plus sign here. Maybe I'll put it in brackets. It doesn't matter. You don't have to show the plus sign. Because a positive number doesn't need a plus sign shown there. Right? So now 4 times something is 32. What's that number? Peyton? 8, thank you. 4 times 8 is 32. Okay. Next one down. Our answer needs to be negative. So we have negative 2 times negative 3 times something here. Is this blank a negative number or a positive number? Yes, Colin. Positive. Right? I agree with you, right? So remember, 2 negatives make a positive. So those cancel each other out. Actually, if this is a positive number here, this would be a positive here. So this needs to be, sorry, a negative number. Okay. We need all number negatives. Is that okay, Colin? No? Not sure? I'll try explaining it a different way. Is that okay or not? I mean, that's one thumb. Can you give me a thumbs down if you don't understand that? Okay. All right. I will explain it in 2 ways. Okay? Okay, now we need to worry about the number that's in there. So we, first off the bat, combine these together. 2 times 3, we get a 6. 6 times a blank. What has to be the blank? 3. It gives us 18, and it should have been a negative 3, right? So now, let's talk about this. So if you didn't understand how the signs worked, right? Negative 2 times negative 3 makes positive 6. So we have to go 6 times negative 3 to get negative 18. So you, instead of worrying with the signs at the beginning, if that's too confusing, do it at the end. Do it with the numbers. And if it's still hard, I will help you doing your assignment. So the answer is negative 3 there. All right. I think you guys got this. Do you need more practice with this? No? Are the 3 ones easy or hard? Easy. Not sure. Not talkative group. Let's try this one. Is the number here negative or positive? Positive, right? So what I want you to do is just look at the numbers that they already give you and cancel out the negatives. Those cancel as a pair. And you go, okay, this makes a positive, and our answer is positive, so this has to remain positive. So that's going to be a positive number, but what number is it going to be? Ranjo?
Never mind.
Timmy?
I'm guessing a 1.
It is a 1. All right? So now, when you're multiplying, the order that you multiply doesn't make a difference. So if you do 3 times 2, you get 6. Or if you go 2 times 3, you get 6. So the order you multiply doesn't matter. If you have 3 numbers, the order that you multiply doesn't matter either. So for this question, if the blank in the middle is kind of confusing, you could think of it as 3 times blank equals 9. And these 3 make a 9. The extra blank must be a 1. Right? So different techniques to help you out. All right. Okay. Let's see this one. Okay. Cancel out the negatives. This and this one pair up. Is the blank going to be positive or negative? Ranju?
Negative.
Negative. Our final answer is negative. That means this side has to be negative as well. So we need to put a negative sign here. And what's that missing number? Ranju?
4.
4. Let's see. 7 times 3 is 21. And 4 times 21 gives us 84. All right, you'll get at it. Okay. So 2 more questions. Word problems. So when you're doing a word problem for me, they're going to be worth a couple of marks. One of the marks will be given to you for having a sentence. So once you've done the math, make sure you add a sentence which answers the question. They give you a question in a paragraph, so you want to answer it using a sentence. So show your math. That has to be most of the marks. Then the rest of the marks are from the sentence. So here goes. Carl's bank at the end of the summer was $2,460. Right? Let's go like this. She allowed herself $32 to spending money each week for the next 40 weeks. What was her bank balance at the end of the 40 weeks? We gotta understand this question, right? She had this much money, $2,000 and we need to figure out how much money she spent. So if you spent $32 a week, how much money did she spend all together? How do we figure out that number? What's the calculation, Peyton?
32 times 40.
Yeah, we do 32 times 40, right? So we go, now this is a big number. I would prefer you to try to use it by hand, right? What's 32 times 40? It's like saying 32 times 4, just add an extra 0 at the end of the answer, right? What would that be? What's 32 times 40?
1,240.
Not 40. So
80.
80. Good. Right? 1,280. All right, so 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. You got the 1280 happening. Yeah? Yes, Timmy?
My calculations are correct. It's 1,100.
1,100.
If my calculations are correct.
Let's see. So this is how much money she spent. So the question is, how much money should she have left over? How do we do that? Yes, Peyton.
You subtract. Wait, subtract it.
You subtract it. So this is how much money she started with. And you subtract 1,280.
1,180.
And that's the number we came up with, right? So what number did we get? Peyton?
1,220.
1,020? I don't think so. Kai?
Now are we doing the answer?
Yeah.
980.
Okay. Let's talk about this. So
Never mind.
we're subtracting. I'm not saying you're wrong. That's a 0.
You need to carry it over.
So the 6 doesn't, the 8, right? It's too big. So you have to carry 1 over from here.
Add
16 minus 8. Right? And then 3 minus 2 is 180. Then 2 minus 1. Right? So this is the only part of the year that we're going to try to do the year without a calculator. But if you have IEP, it allows you to use a calculator, not a big deal. Right? And if it's really, really overwhelming, we'll use a calculator. That's not that big of a deal. But we just want to build our fundamentals, right? Yes?
When I first said the answer, I messed up because I forgot to bring down the other 8.
Yeah, that's okay, all
I
right?
just forgot.
Yeah.
I would have got it right.
Yeah. All right, so we end off with a sentence here. We go, Carol, oh, come on. And come on. This program's changed. Carol will have $1,180 left at the end. Something along those lines. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay. Okay. I think the next one's much, much easier. Jerry lost 2 pounds every month for a year. His weight at the beginning was 176 pounds. How much did he weigh at the end of the year? Okay. So if he lost 2 pounds a month, how much pound did he lose?
He lost 24
Yeah.
pounds.
Because there are how many months in a year?
12.
12. Right? So 2 times 12, he lost 24 pounds. Or maybe a negative 24. Right? Then you go 176 minus 24.
152.
152. And include your units. LBS stands for pounds. Okay? So you say, Jerry, I don't know, what is his weight at the end? Weighs 152 pounds at the end of the year. So now this question brings up some knowledge that you need to know. In order to do it, you need to know that there is 12 months in a year. Most people know that, that's not a big deal. But sometimes people struggle with some other questions. Sometimes they may say he lost 2 pounds a week. So then you need to know how many weeks are in a year. You guys know how many weeks are in a year? No, not 56?
52.
52. There are 52 weeks in a year, so you need to know that number. Or sometimes then maybe they say he lost half a pound a day, and you need to know how many days are in a year.
360. Well, leap year.
Yeah.
365.
365, right? Then 664 depending on the year, right? So sometimes there are, if it talks about numbers in a different way, you need to know some background numbers. That's okay. If you don't know it, you can call me over for help. Ask Susan. Susan will help you out as well. Then, okay, there's many days, this many weeks, right? And then go from there. So now, for the assignment, the first